The title of the first lesson, I don't know if it's too early to dance, but it's called Law Equals Fun. And I want to do a little bit of that. Love dancing, love fun, love law. This is going to be a blast. I totally acknowledge you for the effort you've made to learn about the law in a super practical, fun, and heart-leading way. But also just acknowledge hey, we're going to be chilling and we're going to have a blast. So sometimes when you think about school or you think about courses like, oh my God, an exam or a test or I've got to write notes. Absolutely not. I want you being in an amazing position to feel super comfortable, and I just want you to hear and receive all of the messages that I'm sharing. I've put a lot of intention and thought into this course and the different lessons, and everything has a specific purpose of how it's going to get you to the point of starting from feeling scared, intimidated, and turned off from the law, ultimately at the end of this to being like an absolute all-star who gets it, who can crush it at law, and also feel super comfortable interacting with the law, seeing it through a new light. So they say law is fun. And the first thing that I've learned about being a lawyer is that you have to be in a place that makes you happy in order to do something. I used to be in an office building on the 25th floor of a super tall building in downtown Vancouver, and I was not happy. And then I thought, okay, well, I'm going to do something that fits my life. So why don't I go travel the world, and then I can be a lawyer and operate on Wi-Fi and do my work from anywhere that I want. And that has made me happy. So part of how I've made law fun is realizing I'm going to do it on my own terms. And as you can tell by our super cool setting, we're not in a lawyer's office, and this isn't where lawyers need to operate. And in that same context, for you to operate with the law, you don't need to be stressed, you don't need to be worried, you don't need to feel intimidated. And instead, you can realize, whoa, I can do the most fun things ever and also incorporate the law with that. And that's the gift that I'm imparting with you and that I'm sharing with you. So in our first lesson, Law Equals Fun, there are two outcomes that I want to specifically focus on. The first is, I want to change the way that you think about the law and lawyers. And I'm going to do that by telling some really fun stories and just explaining to you my perspectives of being a real person and having gone through the system of law school and competing and exams to writing the bar, getting called, working in a big law firm, working in a small law firm. I'm going to tell you how all of that happened, and also on our terms, because let's be real, you and I are the same, we're both real people. We don't like intimidating, uncomfortable stuff. I'll tell you on my terms what the law really is about. And the second thing that I want you to appreciate from this lesson is just how badly you need the law in your life. And the truth is, we're talking about your business. When we're talking about your business, we're talking about your life. We're talking about your dreams. We're talking about your community, okay? I love everything that you're doing. I'm so into it. And all that I want to see is you grow. And I want to see you impact the most number of people as possible in a positive way. That is the sole reason that I am in front of you right now. I want to help you grow your business, achieve your dreams, do all the wonderful things that you can do. And I know through my experiences how important the law is in all of that. So I'm going to show you how fun the law is, and then you're going to be like, oh, cool, now I'll just go off and do it myself and be super amazing. So when I say the inevitability of law, what I really mean is this. If you're going to be growing a business, if you're going to be operating a business, you will interact with the law. And you're going to need it, so you might as well enjoy it. How can you enjoy it? You can enjoy it by choosing the way that you see the law in your life. And historically, there are so many references to the law, and everybody has all these preconceived notions about who lawyers are and what they do. And most of those stereotypes are negative and involve excessive alcohol. So I guess it doesn't help that we're at a bar shooting this, but there's no alcohol in this course. And also, I'm going to try to show you that lawyers can be heart-leading people, that they can be compassionate, that they can be your friends, and also they can be such an incredible asset in your business. So the first thing we're grasping is you're going to need the law. If you're growing your business, if you're going to try to sell it, if you're interacting with clients, if you're going to be using this as a vehicle to support your life, just acknowledge right off the bat, okay, I understand that I'm going to need the law. Another really critical aspect of understanding the importance and the pertinence of the law in your life was a lesson that I learned over the course of 3 years of practicing law, and that is the following. Everybody makes the same mistakes. There's a reason we are shooting this course. The reason that I'm shooting this course is on a weekly basis, I will have the same conversation 3 or 4 times with clients, and that conversation will be me explaining basic legal principles and information that to lawyers is so obvious, but the gap between lawyers and passionate entrepreneurs and small business owners who are building communities in heart-leading ways, there's a gap, and they don't understand those important legal principles. So it was probably a year of building my practice of having the same conversations over and over again, and to realize, okay, people, they just don't know. And it's not their fault that they don't know. And I acknowledge how much of a privilege it is having gone to law school and having been educated in the way that I was. And I also feel an obligation to share that information with everyone, because I want everyone to have access to these important legal principles that apply to their life. So if what I'm sharing doesn't resonate off the bat, I totally get that. That makes perfect sense. And I'm going to be working my hardest to make all of these lessons extremely digestible and fun for you to comprehend. Because at the end, that's what it has to be. Law has to be fun. So leading up to this, if there's a little bit of confusion on your behalf, it's all good. Firstly, know that I got your back. And secondly, know that everybody makes the same mistakes and there's a significant information gap. And that is the reason that we're sharing this course. And that's also why I'm so happy to be sharing it, to educating and empowering people so that they can take their business to the next level. I'm so excited to share with you a personal story that happened to me and has taught me so much, both about the legal system and also how people need to interact with the law. And it's a phrase that I will continually say throughout this course, and I'm going to remind you, and my clients are going to chat to you, and they're going to share their stories, and it's a concurrent theme throughout everything that we speak about. And the title of the story is Pay Me Now or Pay Me Later. In sharing the Pay Me Now, Pay Me Later story, I'm going to take you back to, it was an overcast Tuesday afternoon in Vancouver, British Columbia, and I had just been called to the bar and declared a lawyer. So it's sort of like being knighted. I was wearing this big gown and I signed a scroll and now I'm officially a lawyer and I love it. And it was a moment that I'd been looking forward to my entire life. And I'd spent hours in the library at law school and I had thought about all of the wonderful things that I'd be able to do with the law, and I could change the system and I could help people. And I remember that at the law firm that I was working at, one of the partners had taken me out for lunch. And it was someone who I was close with and someone who I really appreciated. And I really felt something special was going to happen at this meeting. I was like, I'm finally a lawyer. I made it. I'm ready for my download. I'm ready to hear all the amazing things about being a lawyer. And we go for lunch and we're sitting and I say, you know what? You've been such a successful lawyer at this firm and you've been doing it for years. What's one piece of information that you would share or that you could impart to me on this special day? And my mentor looked at me and held a dramatic pause and he said, Corey, you're going to meet all sorts of clients, you're going to work all sorts of cases, there's so many different things that you're going to be doing, and there's one piece of information that you need to tell people. And I said, okay, cool. And I like pen and paper at the table with my notebook, ready for all of it. And he said, you're going to tell your clients they can pay you now or they can pay you later. And I sort of sat there dumbfounded. I was waiting for something about morals and the system and justice. But instead, this one piece of information was about pay me now or pay me later. And I said, can you explain a little bit about what you mean in saying that? And he said, what's going to happen is your clients are operating in business, because I focus on business law, I didn't do family law, I didn't do criminal law. He said, your clients are going to be business owners, and the upfront investment of properly engaging in legal services from the beginning will be a fraction of what it will cost if they wait for a problem to occur or are not proactive in using the law, and then later on down the road will need to enlist your services. It'll cost them so much more money to do it later. And I thought, wow, that's an interesting lesson, but obviously I have all the respect for my mentor, so I understand and appreciate what he's saying. And I took it with me, and I never really thought about it until I started having my client interviews. And then I just saw the same problem recurring over and over again. People are in relationships, in their business. They decide not to organize things or put things in writing from the beginning. And maybe because it's uncomfortable, maybe because they don't know to put it in writing, no judgment, whatever the reason. Further down the line, a year, the business is going. They invest all their time in the business. They invest all their energy in the business. The business is their life. And then a year and a half later, a really big problem comes up with their business partner or with their clients or with whoever they have a relationship with. And then they think, ooh, I really should have sorted this out at the start. And then what happens is they would come into my office. I had an office at that time. They would come into the office and they would tell me the story, and I would say, I can help you. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be long, and it's going to be expensive. And I would hold their hand and I would hug them and I would tell them that I love them. But the reality is, because they waited to engage in legal services, the cost, the stress, everything compounded over time and took over their life and made a significant impact. Whereas if they would have paid $1,500 for an agreement at the start of the relationship, cruisy, so easy, too easy, as Australians say. If there's an issue, we can refer to the agreement. Part 3 of the agreement, this is what happens if an issue comes up between us. Now we know what to do, and there's no deviation or questions about what needs to be done. However, when you engage in business without the appropriate agreements or the appropriate communication of expectations in a particular relationship, it just gets more complicated, and there's less rules and less provisions to help you enforce what you believe is right. Pay me now, pay me later. It was the most important piece of information and advice that I ever received about the legal field, and I'm taking this moment to share this lesson with you. It will always cost more to do things later down on the road. And it sucks. Like, I pay my accountant. How much do I love paying my accountant? Not at all. But I know, okay, I'm going to organize my books from the start. I'm going to be strategic in organizing things. And in doing so, in the future, things will be easier for me. And again, as I'm saying, everyone makes the same mistakes. It was 2 years of just continuously people coming in, not having communicated expectations in their relationships from the start, and then as a result, not sleeping, being stressed, thinking the world was going to end. And I'm here today to share with you, because we're making law fun, and because we're doing this in a proactive, empowering way, you want to address the law head on at the beginning. The important part of this lesson is be proactive with the law. I don't care how you use it. I don't care who you use it with. I'm here to tell you that the small investment you make up front in engaging in legal services, either on your own, and I'll talk about how you can do law on your own, or with a professional, the importance of doing that at the beginning and setting yourself up in a position to succeed will pay off tenfold. Because, let me ask you a question. All the relationships in your life, have you had breakdowns? Have you had disappointments? Have you had fights? Yes, we are human beings. This is part of the adventure of being on planet Earth. Things don't always go our way. There are disagreements. We don't always communicate what we really feel. And what I'm telling you now, pay me now, pay me later, it is so much smarter and easier and more convenient for your life to be upfront and to address these issues head on and be proactive instead of waiting for the water to boil and the kettle to tweet like that little kettle noise that kettles make. And at that point, you literally are in hot water. So it's an important lesson that taught me about the legal system. And in our first lesson together, I have to share this story with you. And you're going to hear whenever I'm talking to my clients, we're going to talk about pay me now, pay me later, and the importance of that. So please grasp that concept. The next thing I want to tell you about being a lawyer and what I've learned about the law, and also in making law fun, is a secret, okay? I'm just going to make sure no one's around. This is the secret. The outlook you have on life and different relationships in your life is a choice. okay, you get to choose. So, if you realize that everything in your life is a choice, you can choose for the law to be fun. And you can also choose how you see different situations. And I have such a fun story that took place in my own life a couple of years ago that taught me this. So I had to have a root canal. And I'm like, okay, I'm a little bit embarrassed, but there you go. I'm going to be vulnerable with you in this course. And I've shared that I had a root canal. And do you know what a root canal is? Because I have no idea what a root canal is. I don't actually know what it is, but whoever's in charge of root canals should probably do a rebrand and figure out a way to communicate what a root canal is and how to make it sound more fun and more positive. But I didn't know. Anyways, I go, my dentist is my uncle, Dr. Sterling, based in Toronto, Ontario. Amazing job, been with me my entire life, and I love him to death. And as I was preparing for the root canal, I sat down and I was like, oh my God, I don't even know what's going to happen. I just know that it's going to be terrible. And he's like, no, actually root canals aren't that bad at all. All we'll be doing is digging into one of the nerves of your teeth and readjusting and fixing it. And I was like, oh, so all you're doing is like accessing a nerve in my tooth. That's not so bad. This is actually going to be fun. And I did get some of the gas that dentists give you, so it actually was quite fun. But what that lesson taught me was the importance of choosing how to look at something. And because I changed the way that I was looking at a root canal from being like this terrible term that I never knew what it meant to something like, oh, this is actually like really helpful and beneficial for me and won't be so negative, taught me that I can do the same thing with law. And in all the public talks that I give, in all my interactions with my clients, I always just tell them law is fun. And I know that law is fun because we get to make a choice every day about the different things in our life. And just the same way that I chose to see a root canal differently, I can choose to see the law as being fun and an opportunity to use the law as a tool to empower my business. So just remember, everything you're doing in your life, in your business, in your relationships, you get to choose that particular outlook that you have. And just choose fun because fun's the best thing around. Now, I am so happy to talk about this because this is something I get all the time in my life. Raise your hands if you've seen the show Suits. And I'm not raising my hand because I haven't seen Suits. But Suits is an example of how people view lawyers in modern society. So if I'm somewhere and I'm speaking to someone, I'll introduce myself, as happens in North America more than other places. The first question people ask is, what do you do? And then I'll say, I'm a lawyer. And then they'll say, have you seen Suits? Do you watch Suits? And I'm always sort of dumbfounded and say, no, I don't watch Suits. Why? And they're like, oh, well, there's this guy and he saves the day and he's really smart and they're in a boardroom and everyone's attractive and they're whatever. They're doing the things that happen on television to lawyers. And I have to be honest in saying that when I started working at a big law firm, I thought it would be dramatic. I thought it would be Hollywood. I thought we would have the wildest parties. I was like, cool, work hard, play hard. I'm ready. Let's stay up all night drafting agreements or helping clients at the last second with a dramatic piece of evidence from a long lost mother who came out of the grave. And I was ready for all of those types of situations. And also a bit of partying. Let's be honest, I figured that it would be a lot of fun to be a lawyer in that regard. And I also expected everyone to be absolutely gorgeous, just because that's what happens in all the lawyer television shows and lawyer movies. And then the reality struck of what it's really like being a lawyer and what it's really like working in a law firm. And the people are beautiful inside and out. But what really happened was I realized that for the most part, okay, I don't want you to be too shocked with this, but I'm going to share it with you. Lawyers sit behind computer screens in tall buildings and work on documents. And they'll speak on the phone, and if you're the type of lawyer who goes to court, you'll go to court, and I'm sure if you're in criminal or family law, you're going to hear some real wild stories. But for the most part, corporate lawyers do not lead an exciting life. And I had a personal story. For a brief tenure in my career, I was an entertainment lawyer. And I remember I went to the Whistler Film Festival with the firm that I was working at. And we just had a weekend of schmoozing. I was like, oh my God, being an entertainment lawyer is the coolest thing ever. I get to go to movies, I get to talk to industry and officials, I get to meet actors. This was the coolest thing I ever did. And then I came to the office at the start of like the next week after the festival, and then I started working on production agreements. And then I took a really long nap because it wasn't exciting and it wasn't fun. And all I mean to say is that there's a very big disparity between the perception of how lawyers live their lives and the reality of being a lawyer. And the reality of being a lawyer is that you spend a lot of time drafting agreements and behind a computer screen, and things are busy, but they're pretty dull and boring. So I say this because even for me being a lawyer, if I had gone through the entire process and still thought it was going to be this exciting, amazing television, Hollywood type scenario, and the reality was so different, what do people think about the law? What are their perceptions of the law? It has to be an extension. If you think that lawyers are this way, then you must think practicing law is this way. And if there's and if the difference between how people see the law and see lawyers is so different from the reality, then no one really knows what the law is. And that's why I'm so happy to share with you, having worked with hundreds of clients and all different files from all different types of scenarios, I'm going to share with you what the law actually is. And the law really is just a series of rules that pertain to particular relationships. That's all it is. There's legislature, there's government, there's a whole process of how laws get processed, but the only thing that I want you to think about is the law applies to you in the sense that you have a particular relationship with a person or an entity, and the law creates rules, and lawyers know those rules. So what I'm really sharing with you is the rules around the different types of relationships that you're going to have with people. Keeping in mind that the law is simply a set of rules about the different relationships that you have in your life, that acknowledgement should be extremely liberating. Like, you don't have to worry about what this different pieces of legislation say, what the different politicians who are fighting over the law say. Like, you don't have to worry about any of that. We just take it piecemeal and you just say, okay, I run a business, I have an employee who works for me. The law says there are all these rules around that. Let me just get clear on those rules and then communicate my expectations within the framework of those rules. That's all that you have to do. Let's say that you are a videographer and you're doing a job for your client. There are all these rules about who owns the property, and you want to communicate rules about how you want to work with someone. All you're doing is communicating your expectations within a set of rules. So the same way that I learned that the Hollywood and prestigious life of a lawyer was inaccurate, I'm here to teach you that what you think about the law, and however intimidating you think it might be, it's actually extremely simple. And yes, can it be overly complex and intimidating? It can be, but we're choosing not to see it that way. And we're taking the law on a relationship by relationship basis. And throughout this course, I'm going to hold your hand and I'm going to chill with you, and we're going to be homies, and we're going to hug, and we're going to say that we love each other. And I'm just going to go through the different areas of law as they apply to your business, and what specific rules you just need to keep in mind when you're communicating your expectations in that particular relationship. So relationship by relationship, we got it, and it's super fun.